Unfortunately, she actually came home to the state of Michigan and then I think attended law school at Wayne State University School of Law, and she'll go over all of her expertise. But it's truly been such a joy to know you all these years, Kathy, and now what you do for our cancer patients every day and what you're about to share with the audience is second to none. So warm welcome for Kathy Smolinski, and I can't wait to see what she's got to share with us.
Thank you so much, Dr. Heath. It was a surreal moment for me as well, because when I said something about, having worked at Hopkins and I got to know all these fabulous physicians, and somehow I mentioned the word Dr. Heath, and somebody said, Elizabeth Heath? And I spelled with an S, and I said yes, and they said, come with me. And then they took me into the clinic, and it was wonderful. It was just wonderful to see her thriving as she did at Hopkins. So I'm grateful that she invited me to hold you up before you leave for the day. Always being the last speaker, right, is always the tough one. Please eat while I'm talking. I know your mom told you it's not polite to eat when someone's talking. It's fine now. But I really was delighted when she asked me to come and speak about what I do and how it can really help you to think about these issues when you're diagnosed, when you're going through treatment, and after treatment. So I was delighted. There's a lot of letters after my name. That just means I spent a buttload of money on school. But I am a licensed social worker, and I am a licensed attorney. And Elizabeth is correct. I worked with her down in Hopkins, working with individuals with cancer, came as a social worker, came back to Michigan, got my degree at Wayne State in law, and then had the ability to begin this program in partnership with Carmano. So I have worked exclusively with cancer patients ever since I left graduate school, I don't know, about 32 years ago. So I feel it always, every day, an honor to work alongside of all of you. So I just want to tell you, yes, I'm going to give you lots of information. By talking up here, no, I'm not any of your personal attorney. However, at the very end, I will leave an email up on the slide, and there is some handouts of our brochure on the table right when you leave here that any of you are welcome to send an email, say, Kathy, you spoke, I have another question, because I have really eager law students who need some good work to do. So they'll be happy to call you back, and we'll see if we can't get an answer for you. Okay. So, is my health driven by more than my diagnosis and my genes? Okay, you've heard a ton of fabulous speakers today, and you're thinking about what impacts and what kind of factors that can help you stay healthy, remain healthy, not get ill in the first place. So when you think about what those kinds of things are, you've heard some of them, but there's a whole set of social determinants that have a lot to do with things that we don't necessarily think about, like where I live, how much education I've had, how stable is my housing, how stable is my job, my income, the way I'm paying for things, right? So they call it social determinants of health. A lot of people now call it social drivers of health, because we don't like to think people's health is predetermined. We like to think certain things drive it, so maybe we can drive in a different direction. But 60% of a person's health is driven by social factors. That's huge, okay? And if you look on the diagram, this is from Healthy People 2030, so that's something they're definitely focusing on, the government's focusing on. You can see around that core, these are a lot of things that touch all areas of life. Carmanos is fabulous. They know this. So what do? They employ fabulous social workers. And I would like the social workers to stand up over there for me, please. Come on. Thank you very much. They are excellent. They are excellent at working with all the other team members to identify some of the stressors that people go through when they're having cancer treatment, being diagnosed with cancer. And for those things that need a lawyer to solve, they partner with me and my students. So I run what's called a medical legal partnership. I'm the legal part, Karmanos is the medical part. Okay? What is a medical legal partnership? It's simply a healthcare delivery model that integrates lawyers into the healthcare team. Easiest way to say it. So it's wonderful. We've been doing this for over 10 years in partnership with Karmanos. And if you look at these diagrams up here, you're going to see that this is from the National Center for Medical Legal Partnerships. And it shows you just how large this movement is. So around the country, there are hundreds of partnerships like this because people have, lawyers and healthcare providers alike have found that if we can just get some of this stuff unstuck, people will actually have better health outcomes. So people will say, if I have cancer, why would I need an attorney? Why would I need an attorney? And it was interesting because even some people passed my table out there and said, oh, I hope I never have to call an attorney. And it was interesting because I smiled and I thought, you know, I hope you never have to either. I really hope you never have to. But if you do, okay, I want you to think about how they can be helpful, okay? So a study was done in 2007, okay? So that's about, do some math, 15 years ago, 16 years ago. And they asked a group of individuals receiving cancer treatment, please identify any need that you've had or any decision that you've made or will have to make as you're going through treatment that involved a legal issue, okay? This is what they said. Now, when you look at that, that is a lot of stuff. And I'm sure many of you will see on there, oh yeah, that's come across my plate. I thought about that might be something I should be addressing. And what they did is they found out, unfortunately, back in 2007 when they asked the follow-up question to say, and how much is your healthcare team addressing it? The percentages were extremely low. So I have this stressor, this stuff is going on, and my healthcare team doesn't seem to be able to address it. Now, thank goodness, I hope the tide is turning, and it definitely is at Karmanos, where we have this medical legal partnership between Wayne State Law School, where I'm a professor, and when I kept teasing about my law students, my students actually are in a 6-credit clinic. They have to be with me, God love them, for over 20 hours a week, working on real legal cases with individuals that we receive referrals from the social workers at Karmanos, solving legal issues. They get a grade for it and they work their tails off. And so they're with me for about 14 weeks, and it's a great training ground because they're learning how to be an attorney, they're learning the law, they're researching it, they're applying it to issues. And you all are teaching them how to be a kind and real human being. I can never, ever thank the clients that come to this clinic and have the patience to let law students work with them, because the law students go out there and practice law in a much more humane way. So thank all of you who have ever had our services. So these, when you look at all those problems, our medical legal partnership is very similar to other medical legal partnerships in that we follow an I-HELP acronym. And it stands for Insurance, Housing, Employment, Life Planning, and Public Benefits. And those are the types of issues that come to us from the social work department saying, hey, we think your law students can help. And if you look, we've had, I'd say, well over 1,000 clients that we've helped over the years. And it divides out primarily between public benefits and an area that we call life planning, which I'm going to spend a little bit of time on, and then housing. Those are the 3 bigger ones that we deal with. So when I was thinking today about what I wanted to do, I thought I'll just spend my time on those 3 areas and just give you an overview. There's so much when it comes to the law, but I want to give you some practical things to think about so you can go forward just like you have with all the other speakers, with information and questions. Because that's what's important, is that you open your mind and your voice to ask questions about things that you don't understand, that you want to know about, because you have to advocate for yourself, and we will do absolutely our best to advocate for you as well. okay? So when people think about lawyers, and everybody says, have you seen Suits? Do you like this? Oh, they're always naming all these legal shows, right? And I haven't seen some of them, but most attorneys never enter a courtroom. Just know that. Most attorneys never enter a courtroom. So much of law gets settled in negotiation, coming to terms, understanding each other, figuring out a solution. That's why you'll see a little gavel with an X over it. We don't go to court in our clinic. You don't have time to go to court. You don't have the energy to go to court. We are an advocacy program. We advocate to solve the problem so you can focus on your health. And with the social workers' help, we try to identify these issues as early as possible so we can prevent any kind of litigation that might have to happen. So when you look at this, you're like, what do you mean by naming the problem or the law? Sometimes simply being able to give voice to what it is that's bothering you or is not working out, we can help articulate it into, oh, it sounds to me like you were wrongfully denied your Social Security entitlement, okay? Because, well, this just stopped. Well, why did it stop? So then we know it's Social Security law, and then we can start digging into the regulations. And that's what lawyers do, is they look at all the laws, the regulations. They look for where it applies to you, where we can find an exception, right? Because what we're trying to do is make stuff work for you the way it should. Sometimes drafting documents, I'm going to talk a little bit about that. There are really important documents that individuals at some point in their life think about. It's usually when there's a birth, a death, an injury, an illness, or a marriage, right? Maybe we should think about if something happens to us, who's going to take care of our kids? You know, I worked really hard for this house, or this house has stayed in our family our whole life. What's going to happen to it if something happens to me? And that makes sense, right? So, and that comes up a lot when people are diagnosed with cancer, right? It's that kind of pause moment in their life. And one of the things that we try to do is allow for a peace of mind, ease some of that by drafting those documents for you. So you can draft them, sign them, we date them, we notarize them, and then you can put them away and go on and keep trying to get healthy and stay healthy. Okay? So these are the 3 areas that I would like to focus on. Life planning, housing, work, and public benefits. There's a lot in these 3 areas, so I just tried to pick out the things that commonly come up for us and to describe them as best I can, really to sort of just kind of tickle your mind to think about things, and then I've given you some resources where you can go and get more information about them. Okay? Life planning. I write control and kindness on this because when those clients who come to us and say, you know what, I don't know what's going to happen, but I know I want to put some plans in place. So I want to know I've got some plans in place for where my things will go. If something happens to me, who gets my house? And, you know, my children, who's going to take care of my children? And that's a very kind thing to do, right? Because you've now taken that upon yourself. You've had the ability to think about it, and you take it off the plate of your family, who, when they get to that moment, would say, I don't know what Kathy wanted. What should we do here? And you've now alleviated all that stress because you've taken care of that for them. And the reason I put the word control in there is, wow, if there's one thing that individuals diagnosed with cancer tell me is they can feel so out of control. And this is one place where you can regain some of that control. You can make some decisions, and they can be documented legally that then have to be followed, okay, in the event that you can't express them yourself. So we're going to talk a little bit about that. So what are the kinds of documents? We draft up to 7 different documents depending on what the client's needs are. So what are some of these? You've probably heard of these, like as you go through your life, go through your experience. So there are some that really impact your own health care preferences, and that's called a medical power of attorney, or in the state of Michigan, it's called a patient advocate designation. Then there's another document that can help impact your finances, somebody to help you manage your finances, and that's called a financial power of attorney for financial and legal matters. And then there's beneficiary designation documents, and I'm going to talk a little bit about that too. It's so fascinating, right? Our lives are very rich. We've gone through lots of journeys. We may have gotten a life insurance policy years ago at a job, and it's still relevant, and we're still taking it with us, but the person we put down as the beneficiary is no longer in our life, okay? That's a legal document. That's a legal contract. Unless you take that person off, when that life insurance policy comes to fruition, that's who's going to get that money, okay? So things like that, to just remember I should probably go back and check those documents. You betcha, right? And if they have who you want on it, wonderful. But sometimes we just forget to do those kinds of things. And then my property, right? The stuff I've spent my whole life collecting and working hard for, right? My real estate, my personal belongings. There's ways that you can leave those for individuals. And then, of course, my children. If I have minor children and something happens to me, is there anything I can put into place to assure that somebody else that I want will help to raise them? And the answer is yes, there is. So the medical power of attorney is one that I try to have every client that comes into our clinic, regardless of the area of law, complete. And I'll tell you why. Families are funky. Yeah, I don't think I need to say anything more than that, except that I come from a very big family, and I have 2 aging parents right now. And it's fascinating because my sister and I live closely, and we are doing our best. We are doing our best, and God love her, to help my parents. And I have brothers, love them, who are very far away, right? So they're doing their best, right? But they're not here, right? So their suggestions might be great, but they're never going to work. And so we politely say thank you, but. So, but when we all get together at the bedside, right, I want to make sure that we all kind of are on the same page, right? Like singing from the same hymn book, as everyone says, and I love that. And it can happen, okay, if you take some time to say, hey, listen, kids, if this happens, this is what I want to happen, and you put that down in writing, and you get it as a legal document, it can really help to just ease some of the pain that your family may go through. So it allows you to stay in control, allows you to name the person, right? So a lot of times, if you don't name somebody, right, and you can't speak on your behalf, let's say you had a really bad reaction to a treatment, and you're incapacitated even just for a few days, maybe you're in the intensive care unit, something's going on, and we need documents signed, right? We're gonna go to your patient advocate and say, will you sign on behalf of Kathy? Well, if there is no patient advocate, there's no law in Michigan that says who we should go to next. Yes, you heard that. There's no law. So every hospital makes up policies about who we should go to next. And most hospitals do exactly what you think, go to a family member, spouse, etc. But sometimes those aren't the people you'd want to go to. Sometimes your best friend is the person that you want to make those decisions. That's what's so fabulous about this document. As long as it's an adult who's over 18 or over and is of sound mind, are any of us really of sound mind? That's a whole nother story. But it's of sound mind, they can be your advocate. And it's a legal document, and the healthcare team will work with you to honor it, okay? What I like about it is in getting this document signed, the naming the person, it allows you to start a conversation with your caregivers, which is really important. You say, hey, listen, I'm going down road A, and man, we're gonna fight this cancer every way, and things are gonna go well. However, if there's bumps in the road, okay, or if I land on road B, I want you to know this. These are the kinds of things. And I have learned in 30-some years, people have very, very strong ideas of things that they do want and things that they don't want. And I know healthcare providers and caregivers really want to honor that. So if they know about it, they can, okay? You can have an attorney draft one, but you don't even need an attorney. Shh, don't tell anybody I said that. You don't even need an attorney to draft one. Every hospital has forms on hand, and there's some rules that have to be followed about who can witness them, but signed, dated, and witnessed, it becomes a legal document, a valid legal document. And the social work staff is excellent at helping people understand those documents, and then if there's more that needs to be done, they'll send them our way, okay? A power of attorney for financial and legal matters. So I want people to stay in control. I want them to manage as much as they can, but treatment gets people tired. And I mean, just tired where I just don't even feel like talking to that insurance person on the phone, or I don't even feel like going down and dealing with this issue with my bank. And you know what? You don't have to. If you name an agent, that's the fancy word, under a power of attorney, that person can act like you on your behalf. They can do these kinds of things for you. They can manage your bills. They can even sell a piece of property for you. They can sign documents on your behalf, right? Depending on how the power of attorney is drafted, we can give them lots of power or we can give them very little power, okay? We have drafted tons of these for clients, okay? And it just, even if you never use it, it can give you a peace of mind to know if you need to use it, it's in place. And it allows somebody else to kind of stand up, especially with those annoying callers you don't want to talk to, and say, hey, listen, on behalf of Kathy, I'm her agent. Let's discuss this, let's solve this. Because so many third parties will only talk to the person directly, and this can allow that to happen, okay? So people will say to me, well, Kathy, when it comes to finances, why don't I just put somebody on my bank account, okay? That is a solution, and it can be a very good one, but there's just things I want you to think about, okay? If I have $5,000 in the bank, and I put my sister Karen on it, okay? That $5,000 right then becomes as much as hers as it is mine, okay? If she has any creditors coming after her, they can attach to that account. Even though it's my money, it's now hers, okay? Just something to think about, right, okay? And so a lot of people will say, well, I want to make sure that somebody gets my money after I die. And the thing is that there's another form for that called transferable on death, payable on death, that you sign at the bank. You sign it at the bank, and after somebody has died, the family can take down a death certificate and get that money immediately. There's no probate involved. So that person doesn't have to be on the account during your lifetime. They can just be on as payable on death beneficiary. But it's just a way to kind of think about how to manage your money. Just know, I want you to be aware so you can make the best choice for yourself, okay? People will say to me, Kathy, I don't need a power of attorney. I've already done a will and my daughter's gonna take care of all my finances. Or, Kathy, I don't need to do a will. I've already done durable power of attorney, okay? One stops where the other begins. So a power of attorney, medical power of attorney, financial power of attorney, is you giving power that you have to an agent to act on your behalf. Medical power of attorney, they're not making decisions that they want. They're voicing the decisions that you told them to voice, okay? Same thing with financial power of attorney. They're spending your money on your bills, okay? So people will say, okay, well, what does that mean then when I die? That power dies. That power ends when life ends, okay? So that person can manage the whole time, right? So then the will comes into play, and the personal representative under the will can then take care of things, okay? But I just want you to understand that, because you really do need both documents, and a lot of people misunderstand that. Well, of course you would, unless you've had an opportunity to learn about these things. It's all gibberish, it's all legal talk. And that's the other thing, just like the healthcare team works really hard to explain medical terms to you and making sure that your treatment, understanding your treatment is just as accessible, I really focus my work and my students' work on explaining legal concepts, because they aren't as complicated if somebody takes the time to explain them. And you should know, if a lawyer ever drafts something for you and you don't understand what it says, ask until you do, because it's your document, you have a right to know about it, okay? Designation of beneficiary form. This is what I was talking about, that there's a lot of ways that you can make sure now, peace of mind, that things you have will just automatically go to somebody. Nobody's got to go down to the probate court. Nobody has to open up a probate action. Nobody has to do any of that. And you can take care of that now. And once you take care of it, it's done. It's done. I can't tell you the number of clients we've had, early diagnosis of cancer, late diagnosis of cancer, all across the spectrum, that take care of these life planning documents, and they're like, oh, I'm so glad it's done. I don't have to think about it anymore, and now I can just breathe. And that's a lot of what it does. It gives you that sense of relief. So retirement accounts, life insurance policies, stock certificates, 401k accounts, and then, like I said, the payable on death accounts. Just check, if you have any of these accounts, just check them. Just check them and make sure that the beneficiary you want to have them is who you want to have them, okay? And that's something that you can usually change a beneficiary with no problem. You just need the right form to do it. So even if it's done, you can undo it, okay? Delegation of parental powers. This is a really cool document. I think it's kind of a cool document because it allows somebody to say, hey, I need a little help raising these munchkins. There's a lot going on with school. There's a lot going on with their health care. They got to run to the doctor, and I need somebody else to do it, okay? And it might be a single parent. It might be a person who the other parent is working all the time. So an individual, a parent or a guardian can name another adult to delegate parental powers to. And it's good for 6 months, and then it can be renewed after 6 months, or we can draft you a new one. But it allows somebody legally to do those kinds of things. Now, if you see at the very bottom, I say check to see if your school or bank has, or I'm sorry, your school or your doctor has one, because sometimes they have their own. Great, sign those. But it's something where you can breathe easy, knowing you're not going to get a million phone calls to say, so-and-so is here to pick up Johnny. We need this. Somebody needs to sign this field trip form. That can really help. And we've had lots of clients that do this, especially in the heart of chemo and stuff, and it's really eased their mind. And then wills and trusts. A lot of times you'll hear things about distributing all your belongings. And there's wills, which allow you to say who you want. And then there's a trust, which allows you to say who you want to have what. And it can be set up so things get disposed of over time, right? So you might not want that son that's not quite got his life together yet to get some money at 20, but you'll give it to him at 30, or you'll give it to him when he gets married. And so trusts are kind of cool because you can set them up. And those wills and trusts really are best if you have an attorney draft them, because they can really listen to what your goals are and your needs are, and they can draft it. And we have some literature out there where legal aid organizations for individuals who have lower income can have a will drafted, or estate planning attorneys will draft these for you. There is a form in the law. It's a pretty simple form that you can also do yourself if you have just a few wishes that you want to express. So, Michigan Legal Help. This is a website designed exactly for you. It's designed for the consumer to learn more about legal issues in Michigan. There are court forms. There are descriptions, there are points about how to hire an attorney, list of where you can find an attorney, but it's about every area of law. And you can see there's one all on wills and life planning, okay? So it's great. They just revamped it, and it's really, really focused for individuals who either are representing themselves or just want to learn more about an area of law. It's definitely made for the consumer. So let's talk about housing, okay? Keeping that roof over your head. There's a lot, but one of the things I should say that is really difficult when I work with individuals who have cancer is when they have to couch surf, because they've lost their home for whatever reason, and now they have to live with that family member, and you can just see how exhausted they are. They're grateful, they're absolutely grateful to have housing, but they miss that stability in housing. And there are ways that we can help keep your house under the laws in Michigan. Some people have bad stuff happening in their rental place. Landlords not doing what they're supposed to. There's ways to hold landlords accountable. There's ways to hold them accountable or to get out of that lease, okay? And that's what's important to go to a lawyer about, because there's no use staying in a place that is counteracting all the health benefits your treatment is doing, okay? Eviction's a process. I have clients that say, I think I'm going to get evicted, and we talk about how to possibly not get evicted and save it, and they're like, no, I don't really want to live there anyways. But I want to know legally how long I can stay until I have to move out. And we can talk to you about that, because sometimes that's the realm people want to take, but they don't want to break the law. And it is a process. It's not like you get a notice of eviction one day and you're out the next, right? There's a whole process involved that can take time and help you stay in your house longer until new housing is fine. Lakeshore Legal Aid, I put the phone number up here. They received a ton of money to be able to fight evictions, especially in the Detroit area. So please, if you're worried about being a renter and being evicted, please give them a call. And then homeowners, so many people in Detroit especially, their house has been passed down through all the families, and it's so awesome to work with them and hear all the stories about the home. Home's paid for. That's not the problem. The problem is keeping up with the property taxes. And if you don't pay your property taxes, you can lose a house that's fully paid for. That just doesn't seem right, but it's the law. So there are programs put in place to help alleviate or eliminate the property tax for that year. And law students work with our clients all the time to help them get onto that program. And then there's something called a ladybird deed or a beneficiary deed. Fancy name for a deed that you can do in Michigan. A lot of people want to quit claim their house to their kid. Let's say they're not feeling well and they're like, I don't know what's going to happen. I'm just going to go ahead and quit claim my house to my kid. If you do that, your kid now owns your house, okay? Your kid now owns your house. You might not want that. You might want your kid to own your house down the road if something happens to you, but you don't want them to own it right now. You need the homestead exemption. You might want to sell it. You might want to remortgage it or refinance it. That's what a ladybird deed does. It basically says, hey, this is my house to do anything I want with it. But if I still own it upon my death, then I want Kathy to have it. And then upon your death, Kathy goes down to the Register of Deeds and the house gets transferred in her name, no probate. It's a really nice way to keep all the benefits of your own house, but know it's going to go to somebody you want it to go to. Again, Michigan Legal Help has a whole area on housing, okay? So finally, programs and choices, when I talk about work and public benefits, you know, one of the things that I think is very difficult for individuals that will come and talk with us is they'll say, I've never had to use a public benefit program before. I've never had to go to the state for food assistance. And I said, you know what? And you've also never been in this situation before, okay? Your life is different right now. Use those benefits and services that are available to you to get you over this hump, okay? That's what they're there for. You're paying taxes, right? Use the stuff your taxes are paying for, right? These things are out there, and especially at work, too. A lot of people don't realize that they have benefits at work. So let's just start right there. There are laws in place that can help you stay at work, okay? So a lot of people think, oh, I have to go through treatment, I might have to leave work. You might. But maybe you just need to leave work while you're getting treatment and you can come back. There's something called the Family Medical Leave Act. It allows you to take time off of work to take care of yourself or for a family member that you're taking care of. What's really great about this is the law has a lot of caveats. And we had a client, she was a young woman. Her parents were gone, but her aunt was taking care of her. And her aunt was acting in a parental role, and we were able to get family medical leave for her aunt, even though strictly under law it's not provided, under the caveat it is, okay? And what's nice about it is it's unpaid leave, but it assures your job. That when you're on FMLA, your job is held for you. And you can get up to 12 weeks in a year, okay? And the thing that's really important is that it doesn't involve all employers. So if you work for a smaller company, you may not have it, but it hits a lot of employers because it just has to be people who have, I think it's 50, who has 50 or more employees within a 75-mile radius. So maybe your branch of the bank doesn't have any, but a lot of other branches are in sight, and so there are at least 50 employees within 75 miles, okay? What's really important is that you have to have worked there for a certain amount of time, so that's another thing to remember. And what's also I want you to remember is you don't have to take it all at one time. That's really important. You don't have to take 3 months off all at one time. You can take every Friday off for the next year. You can take every third week off, okay, up to 12 weeks. That's what's really important. It can be intermittent, and you only have to let your employer know as soon as you know. So if you go to see Dr. Heath and she's like, Kathy, I'm changing up all your dad's treatment plans, that's okay. Call my dad's employer the next day and we can go ahead and change the FMLA, okay? But it's something that's really important that can really give you a peace of mind, okay? There's also a Paid Medical Leave Act that Michigan put into place about 3 years ago or 4 years ago. And I just want you to know about it because if your employer doesn't offer paid vacation or sick days, there's a good chance that they have to provide at least this. It's only a week. It's only 40 hours, up to 40 hours, I should say, or at least 40 hours, I'm sorry. But it's still paid leave to be gone. So it is something that's in place there. The Americans with Disabilities Act, that's another thing that I like to talk about only because a lot of people will think, is chemo fog disabling? Would that count? And the answer is absolutely. We're not talking just about the physical implications of maybe going through treatment, but if I'm tired, if I can't think as straight, if I can't think as clearly, that can be considered a disability under the ADA, and that's really important to know. This is much broader. This pretty much applies to almost every employer across the board, okay, and definitely to all state and public employees. The biggest thing that is really good to think about is what's called a reasonable accommodation, okay? Reasonable accommodation is an interpretation under the law. You get to interpret it, so does your employer, but the idea is it's something that's reasonable. It can't put the employer out so much money or so disrupt the flow of work. But there are a lot of things. We have talked to a lot of employers and got our clients just changes in a work schedule. Look at this one, just a drink by a register. I mean, just things that aren't routine for that employer, but the exception can be made and that person can stay at their job. And they have to under the law. Okay? And so part of it is working with our clients to say, do you want to stay there? Yes, I do. Then let's talk about, tell me all the different ways you think you can come up with a reasonable accommodation. But it's also not all on you. You go to the employer and you say, this is what I need. And then the employer can work to figure out how they can accommodate. So it's not all up to you. Okay? Disability benefits, this is a huge one. A lot of people have disability benefits through work, short-term, long-term. They pay into it. Look at your pay stub. It'll tell you on it. Sometimes the employer changes the provider and tells you, and you have to re-up the benefit. And if you don't pay for it, and then when you go to make a claim, you'll realize you haven't had short-term disability for the last 6 months when they change. So you have to make sure and be aware. One thing that clients will tell us a lot is they hate opening mail. And I say to them, please open mail. Just open it and read it. If you don't like what it says, call me, but please open it and read it. Because I can help you deal with something that's coming up, but if you ignore it, you might miss a deadline or something that you need to turn in that will conclude a program for you. All these require medical documentation. That doesn't necessarily mean that your employer needs to know that you have cancer. I want you to understand that. All it has to say is, Kathy needs to have water at the register because of a medical condition. Okay? Now, if it's coming from a doctor at Carmanos and you have a boss with half of a brain, they're going to figure out that, oh, Kathy probably has cancer. But you can always have your private physician write it, okay? So think about that. Like if that's really important to you to keep that, that's another way you can do that, okay? There's also other state and federal benefits, unemployment benefits, the food assistance program, Medicaid and Medicare, and the Medicare savings programs. These are all programs that can help lessen the financial hit to your house that might be occurring because of all the other expenses that might be coming up because of your treatment, or the fact that you had to take time off of work and it wasn't compensated, and so now the income coming into the house is lower, okay? So each program has its eligibility requirements, it has its reporting requirements, and that's why it's really great to talk to somebody who can help keep you on task so you don't lose a program because you forgot to turn in a paper. It's the federal government, it's the state government. They like all their I's dotted and all their T's crossed, but if you do it, you can get these programs. So again, there's another section on Michigan Legal Help that talks all about public assistance, how to get it, how to stay on it, et cetera. There's also a neat organization, I know some of the people that work there, called Cancer and Careers. It's a great website to talk to you and give you some tips about if you're going to go back to work, if you're at work and you think you need to leave, or you have to leave work and you're not sure how to do it. It's a whole organization just dedicated to that, and it's a national organization. And then Triage Cancer. There's 2 women who are sisters, and they started this program 10 years ago, and they are both lawyers. And they saw through the work that their parents did in the healthcare industry that there's a lot of legal issues that come up when individuals are diagnosed with cancer. So they work tirelessly to go around the country and educate people, and on their website are tons of handouts, quick guides they call them. They're like one page, just a quick guide on Medicare, a quick guide on Medicaid, written for the consumer. Another great place to get information. Okay. So Elizabeth said, Kathy, can you just give them like a few take-home points? And I know you're all tired, and I'm so grateful that you're still with me, so I will. I'm just about done. I'm going to give you just, if there's anything you do after today, here's a couple. So take a moment to take stock of all you have. You have more than you think. I have clients who'll say, Kathy, I really just own my car. And we'll talk a little bit more, and they'll go, well, you know, there is that really cool ring that my mom gave me. And they start talking about, oh, I forgot, you know, there's this or there's that, and whatever. But there are things, there are bank accounts that you own. They may not have a lot in them, but you own them, okay? You may have a couple of them. Taking stock of all that, right? So this is called getting organized, and it's just a wonderful checklist for you to put all that information in one place and then let somebody know where it is. So in the event they have to access it, they can. But just taking stock of it, first of all, it'll remind you how fabulous you are because you've done so much in your life, but it will also help get your family a little bit of ease because they know where they can access information. So that's one thing. The second thing is consider other sources of financial support, okay? Think about the fact that Kathy said there were programs out there. Why am I not accessing them? Is it pride? Am I exhausted? Do I not know how to do it? Whatever the reason is think about getting over that reason and getting what your family needs and what you need so you can focus on staying healthy, getting and staying healthy, okay? And then finally, advocate for yourself at work, okay? Advocate for yourself. Employees like when you have an issue and you want to go to like the employee benefit department of your human resources department, it's not that they aren't going to tell you what you have available, but they don't know what question to answer unless you ask it. So it's when a lot of people go out, they'll say, I mean, we had a client who thought she had short-term disability. She didn't. The employer said, but you can go look at her pay stub online if you'd like to. So we did. We looked at her pay stub online, and sure enough, there was something called like catastrophic insurance. She didn't even know she had been paying into it. So my student called the employer and said, can you tell me a little bit about that? Oh, it's like a one-time check of $1,000. The student said, great, tell me more. Well, if you have something severe like heart disease or cancer, it's a one-time check of $5,000. Student said, great, send us the application. The client had the check in about 3 weeks. Now, it wasn't that employer was withholding that information. It's just that the employee had to make a claim for it. So know what your benefits are so you can make a claim for it, okay? Pay stubs tell a lot. Oh yeah, I got one more thing, okay? Don't forget to ask for help. Don't forget to ask for help. Why would you know about any of this? You've never been here before. Give yourself a break, ask for help. There's our email. I hope to get flooded with emails. I have law students that really need to earn some A's, and they'd be happy to answer your questions. Thank you so much.